Howdy folks, this week is going to be a little bit different because we're going to deep dive into some of the incredible new tools in Adobe Lightroom, and I'm going to take you through the good, the bad, and the ugly of Lightroom's brand new AI tools right after this. Welcome to Camera Shake, where we bring you the insider scoop on all things photography and videography, giving you a unique opportunity to stay ahead of the curve. As always, I'm your host, Kirsten Nuts, and before we get into it, I've got one thing to ask of you. I've noticed that over 65% of our viewers on YouTube and listeners on audio are not actually subscribed to this channel. I mean, what the hell, guys? Come on. You can really help us out by hitting that subscribe button. It'll help us to get even more amazing guests on the show. It's just one click. It'll just take a mere second. Thank you so much. Now, this week's biggest news in the world of photography has without a doubt been the latest upgrade to Adobe Lightroom. And as you can imagine, it's all about AI. Well, actually, not all of it. Our friends at Adobe have improved a number of things in Lightroom, and I'll break them down for you on today's show. In fact, this upgrade is so massive, it has its own version number, rather than just another dot something. I know the biggest new announcement has been the inclusion of generative AI object removal, and it's going to blow your mind. I'm going to deep dive into that in just a second, but before I do, let me just quickly go through some of the other changes, and then I'll use a few of my own images to demonstrate how you can use these new AI tools in practice, both in Lightroom Classic and Lightroom Mobile. Yep, if you're into mobile editing on your smartphone or iPad, you can take advantage of these new tools as well. And I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Sounds good? All right, let's do it. Let's start with one of the upgrades that Sony users have been waiting for years. In fact, ever since Lightroom's inception. And that's tethering. Yes, that's right. If you're a Sony shooter, then you won't have to rely on third-party plugins to tether into Lightroom anymore. It now works straight out of the box. A privilege that Canon and Nikon shooters have had since the beginning. So, Sony shooters, welcome to the club. And by all accounts, it works very well and it's seamless. So I think that it's going to make life a lot easier if you're shooting Sony. Okay, so here's update number 2, denoise. Adobe added the incredible denoise function a little while ago, and it's been working amazingly well. And although the results have been fantastic, it has been quite slow. Well, not anymore. There's been a noticeable increase in speed with the denoise tool, and although it still takes a little while, you can definitely tell the improvement in speed. I've been waiting for that for a while, and I'm super happy that it's finally here. I should just mention that especially for Lightroom Classic users, you will have to now update your catalog. And that's because the updates in this version are just so massive, and they've updated the sync engine. So make sure you do that before you get going. Shouldn't be a problem, it just updates automatically, and it takes a couple of minutes. It'll be fine, no problem at all. There are a couple more updates, especially for Lightroom desktop users, that I'll just mention real quick. We now have a slideshow on desktop feature, which allows you to quickly show a slideshow of images in your album on the desktop. That's not to be confused with the full slideshow module in Lightroom. That's still there with all of its features, so no worries there. And you can now save your images locally on your computer straight from Lightroom desktop if you don't trust the cloud for whatever reason, or you just want to have your images available to your hard drive, no problem. That's something that Lightroom Classic users are very used to, but now it's available in Lightroom Desktop too. Woohoo! Also new is the tone curve for video. If you're using Lightroom to tone your video, then this is going to be a very useful new feature. I've personally only ever used Lightroom Mobile to tone video, and actually, I must say, I really like it. For some quick coloring work, perfect. Actually, it works really well. Now, this latest feature is so good, it might mean you won't need to hop over to Photoshop at all anymore, because AI object removal is now available directly in Lightroom. That is, without a doubt, one of the biggest new feature announcements for Lightroom in years. I'll pick a couple of my own images to demonstrate exactly how it works. If you're listening on audio, I'll do my best to talk you through it, but if you want to follow along on video, I highly recommend you hop over to the YouTube version of this episode. And if you have any questions, make sure you get in touch via the comment section, or you can always drop me a message on Instagram or on our Facebook group. Hey, let me just jump in real quick to tell you about the amazing sponsor of this episode, Platypod. Platypod offers innovative camera support systems designed to unleash your creativity. With their stable, versatile, and portable solutions, you can capture stunning shots like never before. And I'm not just saying that. As the host of the Camera Shake podcast, I can personally vouch for Platypod's incredible products. They've become an integral part of the show. In fact, I'm surrounded by various Platypod products holding up lights, cameras, microphones, and so on. It's really helped to transform the way I make the show and the way I shoot at home, in the studio, and on location. But don't just take my word for it. Explore Platypod's website at www.platypod.com to discover their range of products, including the Platypod Extreme, Platypod tripod heads, and the brand new handle, of course. Make sure to follow Platypod on Instagram and Facebook at Platypod Tripods for exclusive updates, tips, and giveaways. By choosing Platypod, you're not only investing in your photography, but you're also supporting the Camera Shake Photography Podcast. Thanks again to Platypod, our amazing sponsor. Platypod, where innovation never sleeps. So here we are with our first image, an image of a toy car, a Ford Mustang Mark I, super orange. We're going to try and remove some of those decals on the side here. Now, all we could do is we're going to go into the remove menu over here, and you can see some new options, generative AI and object aware. Now, we're going to turn the generative AI on, and we're also going to turn the object aware on, because what Lightroom does is it knows the shapes of some of the most common objects, like humans being an object for some reason, and things like cars and all sorts of other things. So that will help us in the selection process. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to just zoom in. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try and remove this little twister decal at the end here. Let's see how easy that actually is. So we've got our brush. We can change the size of our brush here. We can change the opacity here. But I think that will do the trick. So I'm just going to paint over that. Just like that. Super easy. Okay, it's found the selection. It's selected, a pretty decent amount. Now we're going to go back over here and we're going to click apply. And now the robot overlords are hard at work. Try to remove that. And, well, actually, that's not bad at all. Now we're just going to have a look at these variations. It's going to give us 3 variations. The second one is a little bit weird. It's just changed the decal to something else. Every time I try this, by the way, it's given me different results. So that in itself is interesting. Now, what we could do is we could just try that again. This time, I'm turning the object aware off. Let's just see what happens now. Takes a little bit of time. And that's looking pretty dang good. I'm going to look at our variations. Well, actually, the first one is pretty good. That looks pretty clean. I think it's done a very good job. Now, I'm going to try the same thing, but this time, I'm going to see what happens if I select this stripe on the side. So I'm just going to paint over that, just like that. Going to click apply. And generally, it's done a pretty good job. Let's have a look at the different options. So with the first variation, you can see here, it's changed some of the decal to something else, who knows. But if we look at the second variation, that is pretty clean. And so is the third one. So all I have to do is just choose the one that I like. I actually like the third one. What we've just done in no time at all is we've just completely taken off the decals on the side. Pretty straightforward. I mean, it really couldn't be any easier, I think. Right, let's have a look at another picture. I'm going to go to the second image here. That's an image of myself in front of a brick wall, floating in the air with a skateboard. Basically, it's the best way to describe it, I guess. Now, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to hit object aware because I want to see if I can erase myself from this image. Now, I want to see what happens to the background, i.e. the brick wall. So let's have a look. I'm going to simply paint over myself. All right, first of all, let's see what happens with the masking. So it's actually made a relatively decent mask. Let's hit apply. Oh, wow. Now that, for those of you listening in audio, is pretty amazing. Not only has it erased me completely, but it has also filled in the brick wall behind me perfectly, including all the different shades of colors of the bricks, some dirt spots and so on. But again, we've got 3 variations here that we can choose from. Let's have a look. Second one's pretty good too. The third one's pretty good too. I mean, you can choose any of those. I think I'm going to go with the first one. By the way, if you don't like any of those variations that Lightroom has just generated, you can always hit refresh and I'll just give you 3 new variations until you finally get to the point where you get something that you like. I'm going to do exactly the same thing this time with the skateboard. So let's just get rid of the skateboard. Same sort of thing. Just going to paint over that. Let it create a mask. We're going to hit apply again and wait for it to generate. And there we are. Skateboard completely gone. We've got a little light on the top here. Just going to highlight that. Click apply again. It's created a pretty decent mask. Now that doesn't look great. Let's have a look at some other variations. Okay, well, I'm not happy with that. That doesn't look good at all. I'm going to highlight that again. I'm going to click apply again. And we'll see what happens with that. Oh, and there it is, gone. That is a pretty good job. So now we have a plain brick wall. And it looks like, well, it's completely plain. I'm gone, skateboard's gone, light's gone. Well, that's pretty amazing. Okay, let's reset that for a second, because there's one more thing I want to show you on Lightroom Classic before I head over to Lightroom Mobile on my iPad. But the other thing that has been updated is the lens blur. Now, lens blur was introduced a version or so ago, but it's been improved since then. So now what we could do is we can go down to the lens blur menu, we can hit apply. We just have to wait for it to do its analyzing. And what we can do really is we can create a blurred out background. So we can basically change the depth of field of our image. There's a number of things we could do. It's supposed to be faster than in the previous version. And I think that's working quite well. But we can change a number of things. We can change the blur amount. You can see it's actually created a mask around me and the skateboard. And it is now just blurring out the background. The mask is pretty damn good. I can also boost that. I can change the look of it. Let's use this one. That'll be okay. Okay, again, we can boost that a little bit. And what we can do here is, in the focus range, we can actually tell Lightroom how deep the focus is supposed to be. So, and to visualize that, we can hit this Visualize Depth button. Now, you can see the brighter something is, the more in focus it's going to be. And I can change that a little bit so we can get an effect that's very similar to, let's say, sort of a miniature photography type of thing, like a toy thing where we have different parts of the image, maybe the foreground and the background out of focus, but we're focusing on one particular object in there. And that's exactly what's happened here. You can see the background is very much blurred. A little bit of the foreground is blurred as well. And my whole body and the skateboard are perfectly in focus. So does it look real? Well, I think for creative users, this could be quite good. Again, if you look at my right hand back here, that's actually, again, that's in focus because that's so far away from my body. So it actually has done a pretty good job, I would say. Yeah, just finding the right focus in here. So I'm pretty astonished about that. It's actually really quite good. Well done. Now I'm going to head over to Lightroom Mobile and I'm going to show you how the AI object removal works on the iPad. All right, I hope that gave you a really good idea of how powerful this new tool is in Lightroom Classic. But even if you're editing on mobile, you can take full advantage of AI object removal. Oh yes, you can make the robot overloads work for you on the go. It's so incredibly quick, it's unreal. So let's have a look at 2 images on my iPad and I'll show you how incredibly easy it actually is. Okay, so let's have a look and see how this works in Lightroom Mobile. I've got a picture here that I took a little while ago. Again, it's a toy image, and we've got Mando and Darth Vader about to engage into battle. We've got Mando facing the camera, about to shoot with his gun drawn, and we're seeing Darth Vader in the foreground, and the camera's sort of looking through in between Darth's lightsaber and his leg. So the first thing I want to do really is I'm going to go into the removal menu right here. Now you can see the generative AI selection button. I'm going to turn this on. So now we've got our AI switched on. Again, we can change our brush size. And all I'm going to do now is I'm just simply going to paint over Mando because I'm going to try and remove him from this image. So let's see how quick and how good this is. This will only work if your iPhone or your iPad or your cell phone in general, your smartphone is connected to the internet. So this won't work natively. And it's done a pretty good job. I mean, Mando's completely disappeared. We can see a little bit of the muzzle flash. So I'm just going to paint over that. Again, I'm going to let it do its AI magic. It will take a second. Now, I have to say, this works really well if you're trying to remove larger objects. I think if you're removing smaller things, you might actually be better off just using the original removal tool. It just means you don't have to wait as long. You can see it's giving me two distinctly separate areas. So those are the two areas that I just used the removal tool on. And I can change all the parameters separately. So I can change the opacity separately for each of those areas. Or I can try out different variations here again. It's just the same as in Lightroom Classic. Or I could restore the selection to its original state. That's really cool because it means I can just go around the image and remove several things using the AI removal tool. And it should give me a really good result. But again, remember, I think for larger objects, this is a really good idea. It's really quite time consuming because it needs to do all of that processing in the cloud on Adobe servers. So it just takes a little longer. You might be better off to use the traditional removal tool for like smaller things. Like for instance, if you have sensor spots and small things, I think that will probably work better. But as a new tool, I think is absolutely phenomenal. Now let's try another image. In our second image, we have a whole gang of Imperial marauders on planet Endor, probably trying to, I don't know, chase down some rebels or something. We've got Darth Vader in the lead, followed by some stormtroopers, and Mando in the background. Now, let's see what happens if we go back into the removal tool. We've got generative AI switched on. I want to see what would happen if I try to remove Mando from this image completely. So I'm going to paint over him again. It's connecting to the cloud, it's doing its AI magic, and it's done a pretty good job. So look, we can click refine, and we can just go through 3 different options. I think this one's quite good. That's cool as well. And again, we can refine the whole thing. We can come back out of it. Click done for that. And now we could maybe get rid of this little blue spot here. Okay, and I think that's done a really, really amazing job. But I wonder what would happen if I got rid of all the stormtroopers. Let's see how that works. Okay, it's done a really good job with this one. Let's get rid of the other 2. Okay, this is pretty incredible. All we've got left is Darth Vader on his own in the jungle. All the other stormtroopers are gone. It's filled in the background amazingly. It's kept the right depth of field, the blur. It even has added some of the raindrops in there as well. It's done an amazing job. And it was so easy. It literally took a few seconds. And that's really, I think that's one of the most remarkable things about this new AI tool. It's just the speed at which it can give you those results. Are they always 100% perfect? Probably not. But do they save you a ton of time? Absolutely. Now, I promised at the beginning that I'll cover the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think the amazing creative power these new tools bring to Lightroom is undeniable. However, one question I get a lot, especially in connection with AI, is at which point does it cease to be real photography and when does an image stop being a true image? Well, here's the thing. If you're taking part in photo competitions, you need to be aware of the rules. This is absolutely vital. Many competitions that I know of, especially in camera clubs, etc., require all elements of the photo to be created by the photographer. That means composites are fine as long as all the individual components have been created by the photographer, him or herself. And it also covers AI object removal, where the space that replaces the removed object has been created by AI. I'm sure there will be a lot of uncertainty out there at the moment, and some competitions might be more lenient than others, but make sure to check the rules and don't just assume that using AI tools is permitted, or you might just get an unpleasant surprise. From a purely creative and commercial point of view, though, this stuff is phenomenal. Maybe I'll cover some commercial uses of these tools in a future episode. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. Okay, folks, that's it for today. I love these new tools. And as always, before we go, let me just recommend another episode that I think you'll like. Check out episode 187 with Adobe's very own Russell Preston Brown, where we discuss the future of photography. I'm sure you'll love it. If you enjoy our content, consider supporting us on buymeacoffee.com/camerashake to help us continue creating and bringing you more exciting episodes. It really does mean the world to us. And for those of you who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, did you know that there's a fully fledged video version over on YouTube with plenty of examples of our guests' photography in full Technicolor? All you have to do is go over to YouTube, search for Camerashake Podcast, and you'll be able to watch all the past episodes on there. And if you're already on YouTube, well, then just drop us a comment, hit the like button, ring that bell, and share with your friends. Your engagement helps us reach a wider audience all over the world. Thank you for listening and watching, and remember, a new episode drops every Thursday, so mark your calendars. Until next time, keep shaking things up in the world of photography. See you next Thursday.